Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? You guys at the back, can you hear me? Thanks everyone for taking the time off today to be here to celebrate the life of Uncle Len. I see that he was a member here for many years, and that most of you that are here today feel the loss with the family here. I'm going to ask you just to close your eyes for me for a moment. Dear Lord, we are so grateful that you have made us in your image, giving us gifts and talents which to serve you. Thank you for Uncle Len's life and for all the years we shared with him. We left him up today to in honor of you, of the good that you saw in him and the love that we felt for him. Please give us the strength to leave him in your care in the knowledge of eternal life through Jesus Christ. Amen. I'm going to ask that the two grandchildren come up to do the eulogies. On behalf of Mrs.
The end of 59 and a half years married, we met as teenagers at 13 and 14 years old, so long ago. We married when Glenn was 21 and had served his apprenticeship as a toolmaker. He later went on to becoming a draftsman and then designing draftsman, then completing his diplomas and NHC certificates, etc. at the mechanical engineer. We had three wonderful sons, two born in the UK, our youngest born here in South Africa. Glenn was so proud of them and never happier than when they and their families were around him. Last year, they travelled far to be with him for his 80th birthday. He couldn't have been happier to have them all together. In 1975, we came to South Africa, around Tokyo, to Vereeniging, where Glenn had a job to come to at Macy Ferguson. What a change it was from birth in the UK, and took some getting used to, but we settled here and had a very good life. During our early days here, men used to train and coach the boys in the mixed race, the baseball team after work, and you won't believe, but when he was the pioneer of the mixed race team, he took a mixed race provincial team down to Natal, coming up again winning burgers at the time. In the 70s, it was not allowed, but he would not separate the team and kept them all together in the restaurants and in the hospitals, keeping the whole team together at all times. He would have been prosecuted. There was a riot in the paper back then. He worked in retail and rail park, project managing in heavy engineering for 3 years, because before moving to Joburg, he traveled every day and to and fro, working on big projects, Muscle Bay being one of the big ones, after which he became a director of a water treatment company. He traveled all over Africa. During his time, he made Eritrea, Malawi, and Sudan, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, but to name a few. It was the time that he moved to Edenvale in 1994, so less traveling each day, and Chematron was on our doorstep. It was when he joined the Kendall Boating Club in 1999 and was very active in the playing of league uniforms. Also enjoyed bartending and even working at the bar. Did not have any courses. We took turns making meals, for which one of his favorites, he and Kate, along with another member, made popular fish and chip sauce. When he retired, he stopped playing league. He did not want to get the team down. He still enjoyed his Wednesday bowls and of course his Sunday morning night. He was a loyal person who spoke as he found, for his famous day, romantic hero. The last year or so, he didn't play much. He could hardly hold the balls, but problems with his hands. He holidayed a lot, in fact every month. During the first 10 years of retirement, we were away for at least a week, When we were caravanning there, we were at least away for a month or more. Also, our overseas holidays were away sometimes up to 4 months at a time. We moved into the Eden village in 2012, and he was soon active on the committee for about 10 years, during which time he trained one of his workers to be a general handyman to help us with things, mainly dipping taps and replacing backboards or main clips. Could not keep him out of the kitchen. It was then we started Saturday morning once a month breakfast, which he always helped with. Glad to say this to the world. He designed and helped build the bride and changed a lot of the plywood in the village. He gave a lot of time to the maintenance of the village. An ideal time to be able to holiday when you live in a village like ours. We did so much traveling, we actually joined all the dots of the perimeter and coastline of South Africa, having traveled with our caravan in tow. We also went across the border into Namibia to Fish River Canyon and traveled up to Vinton to stay at Barnfield Lake Park. That time, our parents were living with us. Must say we had patience with her. 7 years ago, we did our last towing holiday. We then placed the caravan on sites in Drakensberg and Dragon's. He loved it there. Lots of memories with it. Our overseas trips were all fantastic. We holidayed in Europe, traveling on trains. It was a great experience. Then the cruises we did. The Caribbean was one that stands out most. Our trip to the Grand Canyon, Cape Canaveral, and Disney World for the big kids like us. Our trip was 2 years ago to Iceland and more. It was very interesting and picturesque. If possible, we'd do it all again and more, but you have to have energy. When I became ill, he was there for me, and who would have thought that I would go into reach, just as he needed me. I was able to help him this last trip, and these last 3 months have been the worst. He was in hospital more than we were at home. I would like to say a big thank you to you one and all for the support and kind wishes I have received from my neighbors and villagers for being there for me. And a special thank you to my son, who has been by my side these last 3 months, and the kind and caring way he helped his dad. He was my rock, and I could not have managed this without him. Men was in such pain and suffering. Now the pain and suffering is no more. You are at peace now. Rest in peace, my love. So we need you.
Hi everyone, and thanks for being here. I'm so honored to see so many faces here. I'm going to read what our other brother, Stuart, who can't read out, wanted to say. I'm going to read it verbatim. There's going to be a lot of repetitive stuff. There's only one there. So all got the same experiences, the same stories, so people get into over and over with me. This is now from what Stuart has written. Thank you all for taking the time to come together and celebrate his life today. I know Dad would have been partly pleased, partly because he came to honour him, and partly because he always loved a good audience. Dad was many things: dependable, kind, occasionally stubborn, and absolutely convinced that his way of doing things was the only way in the life. Even when there was clear substance to the process, even when there was clear evidence to the contrary.
Sorry,
he was also a great connoisseur of whiskey and a firm believer that it was compulsory to have a product on a Sunday regardless of the weather. In order to test to that, to getting drenched, waiting for a truck to get there. He was a great negotiator too. I remember when Mum and I had an argument before Dad got home from work one day. When he walked into the house, Mom told me he'd better go and speak to me. He walked into my room and I thought, here we go. But calmly, he said to me, "Hi, how are you?" I replied with great thanks to you. We proceeded to have a great chat. Not what Mom was expecting. Not what Mom was expecting. He also convinced me that a second-hand bicycle was way better than a new one. My first big bike was a second-hand granny chopper, and I loved it. He wasn't flashy or loud about who he was. He showed his love in practical ways, by turning up, by fixing things sometimes more than once, and being there when it mattered. If he needed help, he didn't make a fuss, he just got on with it. But beneath all that was a man with a big heart who cared deeply about his family, even if he didn't always say it out loud. He definitely had a great sense of humor. Blackadder and Monty Python is an Adkins male institution nowadays. But I remember when I first saw cat's eyes in the road and asked Dad about them. He told me what they were, and then he added, if you drive over them, then they break. And then promptly proceeded to drive over all of them that you could see in the road ahead, and told me to look back. And sure enough, they didn't work anymore, they were broken. It took me years before I realized that they weren't actually broken. Besides his great sense of humor, he had a wealth of knowledge, determination, and he was a man of principles that was felt by all. Lindsey Stewart's wife, said he could convince the Pope that he's not Catholic. For this great attribute that she will be forever grateful. She was then navigating the cobblestone paths in Bristol that looked like they were only wide enough for pedestrians. On their way to visit me in hospital, Dad just kept telling her she was doing great and you'll be okay, just carry on driving. They found the hospital and parking. Without him, she didn't think she would have had the courage to navigate those roads in Bristol, to the Bristol hospital. This is forever in your debt, Dad. This has added, note to God, don't argue with my father-in-law. Dad taught us a lot, not through lectures, but by example. Sometimes he would let me help with working on the car. Other times he would let me mow the lawn. When he was convinced that I could do a good enough job of it, it became a Friday afternoon chore. He showed us the value of honesty, hard work, loyalty, and not taking yourself too seriously. And he reminded us that life doesn't need to be complicated. One of my most cherished memories of Dad was when he came to the UK in 2022. I took him around some of Somerset, where I lived, on my motorcycle. Although we had to pry him off the bike at the end of the trip, he loved it. You'll miss his voice, his advice, his quirks, and the comfort of knowing he was always there. But we're incredibly grateful for the time we had, the memories we carried, and the love he gave us in his own quiet, steady way. So today, rather than saying goodbye with only sadness, I think Dad would prefer us all to remember him with a smile, to laugh at the little things, share the many stories, and carry him forward in the way we live our lives. But most of all, raise a glass of whiskey to celebrate him. Finally, I would like to thank Dad for my life sentence of marriage. He basically set us up by asking me to drive Liz home from work one Friday evening. I only got back home on Sunday. Thank you, Dad. We love you. And we promise to keep arguing about the things you argued about, just to keep your spirit alive. That was from Stuart in the UK. I had a speech prepared that was pretty much along the same lines, but after reading Stuart's, I decided that we don't need to repeat the same thing over and over again, so I put something together early this morning, in fact, which I hope is appropriate. It doesn't carry on about the same things, but inevitably it will overlap with some of the things. Born in 1945 into post-war Britain, where times were tough. We met Mon at the age of 14 and would spend the next 66 years with him. In 1975, with not much in the way of prospects in the UK for him or for what he envisaged as a life for his young family, he decided to uproot everybody and immigrated to South Africa to forever. Life became very different there, for the better. Firstly, there was a whole crowd of expats who essentially became our extended family, our aunts and uncles, and whose children became mom and dads and nieces and nephews. And along with that came a social life that was way more than it had ever been back home. Now, I remember back in the day we used to get together most weekends with the McCullochs and the Gals and the Huffs and the Beals and all the sort of different families, and that became our life. Those were our families, and for myself and Stuart and eventually James, all the kids became our cousins. It was just what it was back in the day. Secondly, and more important, by moving to South Africa, Dad was able to get involved in things other than commuting to work, spending the whole day there and commuting back. He spent hours of his time every week at the sides of football fields and baseball parks, or in the car travelling to and from these places, being an involved family man and a dad in a way that wouldn't have been possible had he stayed put in the UK. In all of that time, he made sure that we had everything we needed, not necessarily what we wanted, but always had the necessary tools and equipment to do what we had to and what was required. He gave us kids the best form of education he could. At the same time, he was always making sure that we were practically educated as well. And by practically, I mean we became mechanics, servicing cars, and we were the rag boys and the spanner boys. We became electricians, changing light bulbs and rewiring plugs and bringing screwdrivers and pliers to him. We became plumbers and trotting pipes and changing taps, horticulturists, because we had to water the garden and mow the lawn. There was always something for Dad to teach his kids, and as Stuart has already said, his way was the only way. If we happened to think there was another way, we were quickly corrected, mostly with a clip to the ear hole or a tap with his living ring on the back of the head, which till today I think I still got to do good too. But besides his sometimes rough way, it was always teaching us, and he was preparing us for the things we would have to do for ourselves later in life. Throughout it all, I think the main lessons he taught us were those of sticking to your principles, regardless of the opposition you encountered along the way, and ensuring that you met your responsibilities. And those are lessons that will always and forever be remembered and adhered to. When we are young, basically all of us are taught there are different phases to life. Phase one is the growing up, being educated, sometimes educating yourself and arming yourself with the skills that you're going to need to live your life. Phase two is using those skills to give you and yours the best life that you can, whilst you yourself then prepare your family to do the same. And then phase three, if you are lucky enough and able to, is to be able to retire and enjoy the fruits of what you've worked your whole life for. Dad was a textbook case of exactly this. Once he had grown up and had a family of his own, he made sure that he provided the best life possible for his family, and then when he was able to, he retired and he enjoyed life. I can't tell you how many times over the last 15 odd years that I would phone Mom and Dad only to find out that they were off travelling again. Whether it was a weekend away at a lodge, a couple of weeks away at the caravan in the Berg, or even on a boat trip going around Iceland of all places. He was doing what he loved doing and what he enjoyed doing. In the program you've all got, there's a statement that says a life well lived. Upon reflection, I think that this phrase perfectly describes what Dad did and how he lived his life.
Thank you.
So from my side of things, it's only fitting that for a man who loves living life, that we celebrate it in the same way, and we're going to raise a toast to it. Can I ask that everybody stand and offer a round of applause to celebrate his life? To a loving husband, father, and grandfather, and to the person we all share one memory with. Goodbye until we meet again then. To Len Adkins.
Well, that wraps everything up. We just want to say thank you to each and everyone that has come here to support the family. They have gathered some eats and drinks afterwards for you guys, and then all the memories, all the stories that you shared with Uncle Len through the years, you are more than welcome to tell it for the family, for friends, and then just honor his life by just keeping his legacy alive. Thank you everyone, and be safe.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, please help us out with some snacks in the back. And obviously share some stories, and as needed, I'll order a couple of things for two. Let's celebrate his life. Thank you. Thank you.